Morning, everybody. It is Monday, best day of the week. So had some cool stuff show up the past couple of days. This is after the live stream attempt, I should say. So talking more back on that, I ordered the wire harness. I spoke to the people who were making it. They said it would be here a specific day. With that being said, I made arrangements to have the live stream, put the engine in, so on and so forth. But the wire harness did not show up as they told me. It was showing up a couple days later after Easter. So I did a couple other things here and there, but now I have the wire harness. So the next couple days is really just going to be doing little odds and ends on the car, preparing for that, hopefully start up this weekend. So right now, I'm going to push the car out just to get some better light. We're going to talk about some things I did. Alright, here it is. First time it's been in the sunshine in a long time. Get off me. It's got the 5-lug conversion up front and up back. But yeah, dude. Stoked. Alright, so stuff that I did that I really had to do before the engine goes back in. I reinstalled the steering rack, new bushings. I had to put these new lines on, ISR steering rack lines. I think they're like $70. On the other time we put in the engine, we actually smoked one of these lines, unfortunately. So I had to replace them. New boots. We'll come around over here. Let me turn the wheel so you can see behind. See some of the suspension stuff. Really light steering for no power steering. Alright, if you can see back here, it might be a little dark. New steering are tie rods and tie rod ends, which is sweet. Lower control arms have been extended. Stock sway bars, this should be alright for now. I heard a couple people are not running sway bars up front, but we'll see how it goes. And then the Cusco coilovers. And then right now, we don't have the brake caliper in, but the rotors are on just to get a good fitment of these tires. I got them from R1 Performance. They're nice. I was really surprised on how big they were and heavy duty. But it's really tough to see. But they're thick. They're definitely designed for heat displacement and stuff like that, because they isn't just one piece, it's like two pieces and then has that middle crevice to dissipate heat quickly. But yeah, and then looking inside, I put the dash bar back in. Oh, that's 100% in for now. I needed it because I wanted to mount. We had to take the steering rack out because I'll show you something else that I found that people were doing. Was we have a little bushing, a rubber bushing on the steering rack. You can see it up in there. I replaced it with it's a billet aluminum piece. It was really cheap, but got that replaced. So right now, I want to tighten up those ISR lines. Figure out a way where I'm going to run the brake cable somewhere, and then I might even attempt. I don't know if I can do it by myself, in all honesty. I'm going to try. I want to see if I can mate the transmission to the engine, and I guess we can try to put it in. I don't see why we couldn't. Last time I did it, I needed my dad here, but in all actuality, I think I can do it by myself. So we will see. You guys will be along for the ride, so let's see how it goes. Fingers crossed. That was weird. Kept trying to record a time lapse. It's awkward. Power steering lines from Sticky are in. I don't see why we can't throw the engine in now. So I'm gonna swing it out, see if I can get the transmission connected by myself. That would be nice if I can. And really go from there. I don't know what's gonna happen next. We'll see. I only have, what time is it? 45 more minutes. See if I can throw this engine in 45 minutes. Alright, so I got the engine back in the air, as you can see. It's been sitting in the corner for a couple of months, being neglected, which is fine. Jumping back into it, I want to see, it would probably be easier for some of the connections to be connected before I put the engine actually in the car, just for like clearance issues, like the crank position sensor, which is like behind the starter and stuff like that. So I'm going to grab the harness, dive in a little bit, see if I can make some of these connections, and go from there. I got it right here. We can talk about it a little bit. Alright, I got it right here, and I'm honestly extremely surprised. I'm an electrician myself, and I like to think I can do something this good if I had the right material, but this, compared to the other harness, is two different worlds, because I want to say there's only like 30 or 40 wires, and they're really, really impressive with how well they wired this up. So, just gonna dive right in. Like brand new connections, and most of these are brand new, so it will be neat. Alright, so it's the next day. I'm ready to put this engine in. I don't know how it's gonna go. Last time I was here I had another hand. My dad was around, helped me out. So I'm just gonna try to send it. Transmission and engine are bolted up together, and that honestly went way smoother than last time. Before I was fighting it, I don't know what was going on, but I'm already hooked up on the cherry picker. Are the harnesses plugged in for the most part? So yeah, let's get to it. So right now I have to disconnect the new ISR steering lines that I just put in yesterday. I'm scared of ruining like the ones I ruined last time, so right now I'm just disconnecting them from the steering rack, and it'll make it a little easier, give me like that much more clearance, and then I should be able to get this right in. That's the only thing that's holding me out, so let's see how it is. Yeah. After some time of just trying to like work it in, it's not going in right. It didn't really go in perfectly the first time. Like 3 out of the 4 bolts for the transmission was lining up. And I don't really want to run it like that. So I came to the conclusion, there's a couple spots where the transmission bell housing and transmission itself are making contact with the transmission tunnel. So they're just gonna come out for the second time, and I'm gonna waller the crap out of it, like more than enough. So let's see if I can get this thing out now. Let's see how it goes. So engine's out, as you can tell. I've come to the conclusion that my woodworking hammer, the only really metal hammer I got, really isn't doing, like it doesn't even seem like I'm making any progress, in all honesty. So I'm gonna invest in a ball peen hammer, probably be a little easier, and also my roommate's sleeping, so I don't really want to get too aggressive with it. So I'm just gonna pull the shaft out and the steering wheel off and just call it. Which I think is just 2 bolts and stuff. It's kind of shitty. Whatever. I just had it out. That's just unfortunate, but part of the game. All right, let's do that. Alright. Day 3. I borrowed from work, not from work, from someone from work. They have a ball peen hammer and then like a mini sledgehammer. So I think that'll work way better. I was also scared of waking up my roommate yesterday. And I was sure that I did because it was being super loud. But rest assured, I didn't wake him up. So I'm gonna give it another try with the more aggressive hammers and go from there. Alright, so I've been hitting the transmission tunnel for a little bit, probably around 30 minutes or so. It's definitely a lot bigger than it once was. But I'm gonna keep going probably like another 10 or 15 minutes. Just because I'd rather have more than enough than not enough. It took a little break and I pulled the steering column, or steering shaft, whatever it's called. I managed to get that out. So I can put the headers on. So right now, game plan, transmission tunnel, engine in, bolt the engine down for the final time, headers on, intake manifold on, the accessories on, and then I got some sensors on the way, like the map sensor. I have it, but it's gross, so I'm gonna get a new one. And the intake manifold that I have requires a map sensor relocation, which should be interesting. I gotta figure out map sensor. The harness I got did not have a plug because it's not necessarily required, but I still want it. It doesn't have a plug-in for the oil pressure, which I feel like that would be a really crucial thing to know, especially on a first starting engine. So I bought an electronic adapter, or electronic gauge and adapter to work on this. But after that, I think it should be good. And then this coming weekend, I'm gonna buy a battery. And then really, like at that point, all it is gonna be just plugging the battery in and cranking it, because everything else will be done. So, tired. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. Let's keep going. Alright, engine's in, but once again, transmission bolts are not lining up the way I like them. There's like two, I don't know, pieces on the transmission that I guess are there in case you run a different bell housing setup or something or the other, that are making contact, and I think that's what's restricting me from getting it all the way in there. So once again, this engine's going to come out. It's on both motor mounts perfectly, but it's just not bolting up, unfortunately. So that sucks. We're like this close. I got so excited once I got both the engine mount ones in, and of course the transmission mount one is not bolting in. I guess it's part of the game. All right. Alright everybody, I haven't been recording that much over the past couple of days because I've just been doing the same thing. I've been trying to get the engine to fit perfectly and the transmission to fit perfectly. So to talk about what had happened is I finally got them to fit, all brand new hardware. I ended up stripping out one of the transmission mounts, but I tapped it to the same thread and it went back in fine. So the transmission and the engine's in, as you can tell. I had some problem with the driver's side header fitting. I was making contact with a motor mount, so I had to massage or just shave off some of the motor mount, which was fine. There's plenty of it there. And I kind of knew that that was going to happen. So now what I have to do is I fabbed up a fuel line from the pressure regulator, just a temporary one. I realize I need to buy some new fittings, which is okay. And then once that's done, I should be able to try to start it. Fingers crossed. I want to clean up. I kind of just like spitballed last night with, I mean, spitball is probably a bad term, but just got a lot of momentum. So the engine and transmission bolted in perfectly, and I'm like, all right, cool, headers, got the headers on. Oh, wow, like that was, like it looks great. And then I put the intake on, I started plugging things in, the fuel filter is plugged in, like everything's on that I need to be on. So right now, I had to charge the battery off my truck a little bit. I'm gonna make sure it makes oil pressure, and then I'm gonna do fuel pressure, make sure there's no leaks anywhere, make sure all my fittings are tight, and then I guess I can try to start it. That would be pretty neat. But I'm gonna clean up. I need to get organized. It's crazy in here. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. And then next thing you're gonna see is me getting oil pressure and me trying to start. Victory pizza. So I cleaned up the garage. Did a little of this stuff too. We're ready to start the engine. That's scary for me. I've never done this. I checked fuel. I have fuel pressure. I got like 60 pounds, and then the regulator kicked in. And then I turned it off, let it sit. It dropped down to like 55, which is normal, which is fine. I checked again. I got like 65 pounds of oil pressure, which is neat. I'm terrified, but also really excited. So, spark plug's going in. I gotta connect my OBD2. Most of the gauges I'm gonna run will be on this OBD2 adapter that will go to my phone. And I have it plugged in, so I'm gonna power that, connect it before I'm ready, and then do that. Let's do that. All right, we have some things to discuss. So the last thing you saw in the video was me putting the engine, or had the transmission made it to the engine for the first time. What you're gonna see now, as you can see, the engine is in the car. So what had happened was I repeatedly put the engine in the car with the transmission, and it did not seem to fit. Initially, I thought that the transmission tunnel, as I knew, it required massaging, like you had to waller it out a little bit more to make the bell housing fit, which was fine. And I thought I did it enough the first time. It ended up not being true, so I did it several more times. I did it probably like, I ended up putting the transmission in and taking it out 4 times, and then finally getting it perfect this time that you see now. So I got it in and ended up hooking everything up. I bled the clutch because I did not necessarily feel comfortable starting the engine with the clutch engaged. But it seems that there's a leak coming from the master cylinder. I'm sorry, the slave cylinder. What was that? So there was a leak coming from the slave cylinder. I could hear it. I was bleeding it. I could hear it coming. So that's something that is going to have to be addressed. I ended up just keep pushing through. I'm like, man, it's been almost a year. I need to hear this engine. I need to know if I built it right. I've never done this before. So I ended up hooking up. I bought an electronic oil pressure gauge because if you take the spark plugs out and you cycle the engine, from what I read online, you want it to prime. You want it to accumulate oil pressure before you start it. Makes sense? I did that. It had good oil pressure. It was like 15, 20 pounds. At one point, it shot to like 50 pounds. So that was good. I ended up hooking everything up. Also to note, hooking up the headers was a little bit of an ordeal. So these engine mounts I bought were on eBay. I saw people use them online. One of the guys who used them has the same header setup. That's why I bought these long tubes. And he said that he had to massage them. So I massaged them, got them to fit, and those brake lines that I custom made were making contact with the headers. So that's going to also be addressed. So slave cylinder, brake lines, they're just for the rear tires. The front ones are still good. Also, I need to buy some new fittings for the fuel lines. The fuel pressure regulator fits where it was originally mounted, but at the same time, the fittings that I have don't make a sharp enough turn to fit normally, so I had to remove it from the firewall, run the lines, and it was fine. I primed the fuel system. It made like 60 pounds, no leaks. I was thrilled. There might have been a little leak, but I think it was fine. Everything else is hooked up, remote oil filter relocation, the intake manifold's on. Something else was the MAF sensor I bought. So I want to run a MAF sensor. I want to have the most amount of sensors telling me what's going on with my engine at all times. So in case something happens, then I know. So I looked in Spectra Performance. I'll hold it up. Spectra Performance, this aluminum part it's basically a piece of aluminum that has a MAP sensor like plug for there. You can see it inside. For the actual MAF. So I bought that. I bought a MAF. Turns out that MAF doesn't work with the MAF on the wire harness that I have, which is okay. I gotta either think about what I'm gonna do for this setup, but what you're going to see now is me trying to start the engine, or me actually having the engine started. So I did have the engine started. The following video after this will be that. I ended up trying to start it. It wasn't working. Trying to start it wasn't working. It sounded like, it didn't sound like the spark plugs were going off. It just sounded like it was running and running and running. And I know it had fuel because it has fuel pressure. So I'm like, it's got to be spark. I looked into the harness, and it turns out that I had the incorrect wire to power. So on one of the harnesses, it specifies this wire is the ignition wire, and to turn the engine off, you remove it from power. So I didn't have that. So I ended up running that, and then like first turn, just fired up. And I wasn't even recording because I didn't even think it was gonna work. First turn, like touched it to power once the engine turned over twice and just fired right up. And it was like one of the happiest moments I've ever had with this car. So you're gonna see that footage right now firsthand. As soon as it fired up, I reached over, I pressed the play button, or the record button, and it was amazing. I don't even know what to do with myself right now. Like I don't want to touch this. I think it's perfect. I don't want to do anything. So you're gonna see that footage, and then next time the engine's probably gonna come out. I'll probably measure for a drive shaft, order that, and then fix all my little odds and ends. And then I gotta make some electrical things, switches inside, and then the next time this thing's gonna fire up, I'll probably get it started like one more time. But the next time this is gonna fire up is I'm gonna be sitting in the driver's seat and clicking switches and not messing around with a battery. So thanks for watching. Enjoy this video.